all eyes, of course, on the return of the captured Indian Air Force pilot, Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman, who is expected to cross the Attari-Wagah border anytime now. According to the latest information that's coming in, Pakistani authorities cordoned off the area and asked all visitors to vacate the site after the beating the retreat ceremony ended on the Pakistani side. And Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman may be released shortly. The Indian High Commission officials are accompanying the Wing Commander at the Wagah border. In addition to this, we are also hearing that the Indian Air Force may conduct a press briefing at the border. Remember, India has decided not to give in to Pakistan's blackmailing. The Indian government has made it clear that no deal would be struck to have the pilot released. Meanwhile, Union Minister General V.K. Singh has tweeted that it must be understood that Pakistan has not done us a favour by returning the Indian Air Force pilot. Under the Geneva Convention, a serving personnel captured during conflict has to be returned. We must also not forget, he says, that after 1971, we released over 90,000 prisoners of war from Pakistan. So strong words coming in yet again from the Indian government. And even as the nation awaits the return of the captured Indian Air Force pilot, the mood has been that of anticipation, also of jubilation ever since the announcement was made by Imran Khan yesterday that the captured Indian Air Force pilot will be returned to India. We have been getting you perspectives all through the day from our esteemed panelists joining us. This evening is former Deputy NSA Leela Ponnappa. Also joining us is Defence expert Lieutenant General Satish Dua. Let me come to you first, Leela Ponnappa. Your thoughts on how Pakistan tried to milk this episode of the returning of the Indian Air Force pilot. And that attempt also was foiled by the Indian side by cancelling the beating the retreat ceremony. How Pakistan has tried to turn this into a public relations exercise, quite opposed to what the Prime Minister had said, calling it a gesture of peace.
I think this was to have been expected, and I think we can comment more on this after the Wing Commander, in fact, is seen as having returned to India.
Right.
But I would like to suggest that we are looking at three things happening here. On the one hand, there is the high expectation of the return of our Air Force officer. On the other hand, by your own reports, there is the firing that has been taking place in different sectors along the line of control. And on the at a third level, you have the Pakistan political establishment led by Imran Khan trying to use this to bring India to the table. They are trying to use this to legitimize their current ongoing policy, which is something that is unacceptable not just to India but actually to the entire international community. So when our officer is returned, we will celebrate the moment. But let us not forget that at the same time, four security personnel and a civilian have died a short while ago today because of firing across the border, across the LOC. And the attempt that Pakistan is making to get India to come to the table while steadfastly refusing to renounce terror, not just by words but also by deeds, goes to tell you how severe the contradictions are within Pakistan, where policy is driven not by a democratically elected civilian government, but really by the deep state typified by the Pakistan army. All these three things are happening at the same time, and we need to recognize the realities of what Pakistan is about.
Lieutenant General Dua?
Yes, I quite agree with what Mrs. Ponnappa just said, because
All right, a bit of an audio glitch there in your line, Lieutenant General. We just try and reconnect that line. But as Leela Punappa was mentioning, of course, the mixed signals that have been coming in from the Pakistani side. Just to remind our viewers, these are the latest visuals that we are getting to you from the Attari-Wagah border. In just a while from now, we are expecting the captured Indian Air Force pilot, Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman, to be released by the Pakistani side and to walk through the border. Of course, heavy security, also presence of civilians around the area. Of course, there has been hectic activity all through the area. Pakistan had announced yesterday, Imran Khan said that they will be releasing the Indian Air Force pilot after they tried to call it as a gesture of peace. Imran Khan said that they would be making this move as a gesture of peace to release the Indian Air Force pilot. Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman, remember, following the aerial engagement that took place on the 27th of February, his aircraft was shot at by the Pakistani forces and had and he, as a result of his landing, had landed on the Pakistani side of the border or in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Leela Punappa, as we await the return of the Wing Commander, also help us understand the various formalities that are completed on either side. We understand that there has been a medical checkup which has ended up, of course, that was a part of the routine procedure, but the reason that has been attributed as of now has been that the medical checkup is taking long, and which is why there has been a delay. Help our viewers understand the formalities and the process that will be completed once the Wing Commander does arrive at the border.
Well, I mean, if you read the text of the Third Geneva Convention on the treatment of prisoners of war, there is great detailing in terms of the procedures to be followed when one or more such individuals are returned to their home state. So sometimes there is paperwork and that takes time, but I suspect that all of this is really being made into a bit of a media spectacle, because these things can easily be done quickly, quietly, professionally. Whereas right now, I think there's a degree of hype, the sort of suspense, if you will, of why it has taken so long. We've been hearing that he's due to come over any time, almost for the past hour. So they're trying to milk it for maximum benefit. Let's not deny them that, because they're trying to derive some advantage from it. But at no stage should we lose sight of it, because while there's so much attention focused at Wagah, let's be clear that there are other things happening elsewhere. Is this possibly a diversion from something, from paying attention to something else that's going on? We've already lost 5 lives on our side of the LOC. Is there something else we need to be aware of? I think it needs to be looked at in a very measured way.
Absolutely. Lieutenant General Dua, your thoughts on the delay that we've seen, of course, of the return of the captured Indian Air Force pilot. He was scheduled to arrive at the border anytime between 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. We are being told that a medical checkup, which was a part of the routine, has caused the delay. Would you agree with Leela Punappa here that this has been Pakistan's attempt of a larger strategy?
I totally agree with what former Deputy NS Leela Punappa just said. In fact, when the audio just went off, you asked me a question. I was about to say, just because this is the event that is happening live, and we've been waiting at it for the last 7 or 8 hours. The whole nation is agog and looking at the TV for this at this spot. Now the point is, this is one small step that is going on. There are procedures involved. May be genuine, or if Pakistan is trying to draw some mileage out of it, some media mileage.
Right. Another Right, we'll just try and reconnect that line with Lieutenant General Dua, but as he was mentioning, he does agree with the point that was being made by Leela Punappa earlier. Leela Punappa, something that Lieutenant General Dua also pointed towards, how, Pakistan has been trying to milk this, but to what extent do you think this could work in their advantage, given the fact that they had no choice but to return the pilot as per the Geneva Convention?
Well, I mean, let's try to imagine what might have happened within the Pakistani establishment once they realized that they had an Indian Air Force officer in their detention. There would have been a discussion about it. Should they return him? Should they not? I think armed forces, regardless of the nature of hostilities between countries, have a certain understanding and respect for each other. Sometimes it is manifest, and sometimes, as we know from the kind of brutality with which our soldiers were treated at Kargil, it does not come into play. In this particular case, there would have been a debate within the Pakistani establishment, and there would have been an opinion that they stand to gain more by letting him go than by holding on to him. Now, let's not forget that there is also the feeling, based on some degree of evidence, that Pakistan continues to hold Indian Armed Force personnel dating back to the 1971 conflict with regard to the liberation of Bangladesh. And they have steadfastly refused to accept that they have any such personnel in their custody. So I would repeat that this is why I said this is a tactical measure. It's a good thing that it's happening. If to the extent that Pakistan behaves like a normal state, it is good for Pakistan, and it is good for India and for the rest of the world. So let's take it at face value for what it is. It is a step. Let it happen. It hasn't yet happened.
Right.
Then we can see what else Pakistan is capable of doing. If Pakistan wishes to, if it has the, when I say political will, that includes the armed forces, then it can function like a normal state. There have been times when we have approached some degree of normalcy, but I think the armed forces have such a vested interest in institutional hostility towards India, because it goes back really to the concept of India and so on, that you're not going to see any changes. If the change comes, it has to come from within Pakistan. There are elements within Pakistan that would like to see a change. But right now we have to recognize that this is the reality of Pakistan, and we must never have any illusions about it, nor send mixed signals. And when the general spoke about a paradigm shift, I think that shift would have to be that if you attack us, we will attack the source of the problem. And in this case, it was the terrorist camps, and this is what we have done. And perhaps there should be more to come, because this is a matter of concern not just to India, but to the rest of the world. And it's a problem for Pakistan as well.
Right, and also, Leela Punappa, would you agree that the messaging by India has been both measured and stern? It's been non-provocative, at least in terms of the statements that were issued following the aerial engagement as well. But as far as the Indian Air Force pilot is concerned, the strong stance that we will not indulge in any negotiation also contributed towards Pakistan taking that decision, and the very fact that they took it in the amount of time that they did.
Well, I'd like to hope that India's position helped to strengthen the voices for normalcy within Pakistan that led to this decision. I'm sure there were counter arguments, and people wanted to use the detention of our pilot as a bargaining chip. The international norms were very clear. And I think on this particular instance, it is a good thing that it has happened. But let's not kid ourselves that this therefore means that Pakistan is reaching out for peace, because as today's events elsewhere show, this is not necessarily the case. So this is tactical. Good thing as far as it has happened until it happens, and I would like to see the wing commander on Indian soil. before we sort of get too carried away with it. I mean, hopefully everything is in process. You were asking about what the procedures were.
Yes.
You know, there would be medical checks, there would be paperwork involved and so on. I haven't read about the Red Cross being involved, as they very often are, but our High Commission officials, our air attaché in Islamabad is also apparently there. So sometimes formalities take a long time, as we know. It's not just in our country, in other countries as well. But I think they need to speed it up and get him across, because we've been waiting a long time.
Absolutely, and India has been waiting ever since that announcement was made by the Pakistani Prime Minister yesterday. It's been a mood of anticipation, to say the least. All Indians, of course, eagerly awaiting the release and the return of the Indian Air Force pilot. Leela Punappa, also your thoughts on the statement that was put out today by the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj at the OIC. It was a significant one. Also, the very fact that India was present at that meeting being equally significant given the timing.
Well, I think it's very important that your viewers realize how far this equation with the OIC has come. Way back in 1969, when the first summit took place in Rabat in Morocco, India had been invited, was disinvited, and it was all because Pakistan took objection to an Indian presence over there, which is clearly established that the OIC had less to do with Islam than it had to do with diplomacy, and Pakistan used this, as it has used religion in other situations as well, to try to further its own political advantage. I think Indian diplomacy over the past few decades, and it's not a question of X party or Y party that was in power at the center, Indian diplomacy has developed the linkages with the countries, the members of the OIC, to the extent that a country like the UAE has invited our foreign minister not just to participate but as a guest of honor. She made a very clear, forthright statement at the conference today, and I think she laid out the issues in terms of the need to counter terrorism and of the need for different countries, different cultures, different faiths to have a dialogue in the interests of peace.
And what do you then make of Shah Mahmood Qureshi's stance of refusing to attend that meeting? Many have called it a long-expected lines, given the reluctance that Pakistan had shown and given how miffed it was at the very fact that India was invited.
Well, I mean, this is the point. I think, I mean, to put it, the short answer would be that he's sulking. I don't see why it should have led to his staying away. If what Pakistan and others in the OIC claim the organization is about, then really the aberration was the fact that India was not a member of the OIC all these years, given our large Muslim population. So this is part of Pakistan's contradictions. They are unable to deal with this kind of situation. And they have to come to terms with it in their own way, in a manner that they can, perhaps with the assistance of some of their friends. But I don't think we need to see too much into it. As far as India is concerned, we too had our internal contradictions about whether we should be dealing with the OIC. This was true about maybe 20 years ago. And I think over the years, through progressive series of interactions with the OIC, we have now reached this stage where our foreign minister is there as a guest of honor. That's good.
Absolutely. Very interesting points being made by you there. Leela Punappa, please stay on with us as we just touched upon the core issue of terrorism, and that was something that India has made its stance very, very clear on through its statements and through its messaging. But even as the nation is awaiting the safe return of Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman, India continues to mount pressure on Pakistan to act against Jaish-e-Mohammed. Remember, the terror outfit based out of Pakistan, which had claimed responsibility for the Pulwama terror attack, in which 40 personnel of India's Central Reserve Police Force were killed. The Indian intelligence agencies prepared a comprehensive dossier listing the Jaish-e-Mohammed and its terror activities as evidence and presented it to Pakistan. This, of course, includes evidence of a set of activities that the Jaish-e-Mohammed and Masood Azhar undertake in Pakistan, right under the nose of the Pakistani establishment. These activities, of course, are available on various blogs, websites, Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts. Many of them openly declare association of the Jaish-e-Mohammed with terror attacks. Already New Delhi has an upper hand, with the US, UK and France moving a proposal at the UN Security Council to ban Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman will be walking past the Attari-Wagah border in a while from now, in just a short while from now. The government, of course, the government of India had insisted and asserted that there will be no negotiations with Pakistan on the safe return of the pilot, even before Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan made that announcement of his release in the Pakistani parliament yesterday. But the issues that brought the two countries to the edge, of course, remains. Pakistan has contested India's assertion that the Jaish-e-Mohammed training camp exists on its territory, and the organization runs seminaries and training camps that churn out jihadi cadres, something that India will keep pushing for and building pressure on international and diplomatic fora. Leela Ponnappa, this point of the international pressure that has been mounted, of course, goes in line with the multi-pronged approach that India has adopted to exert pressure on Pakistan through the withdrawal of the MFN status. That was the economic pressure. We have the diplomatic pressure being mounted and sustained as well. But what to your mind goes beyond the global condemnation? We have discussed how the listing of Masood Azhar, even if the international efforts do result in the same, there's been so much cynicism over whether or not the listing would actually change things on the ground.
Quite right. You see, we take a lot of comfort from the comforting statements that countries make. They condemn an attack. They sort of, I mean, countries have said, well, you know, every country has the right to self-defense. So the words are in support of India's action. But countries are not likely to act in favor of India unless there is a very, very deep understanding. And I think India needs to recognize, as it did in 1971, as it has in many instances thereafter, that this is something it will have to handle by itself because it is in our interests. After the Mumbai attacks, there was a flurry of diplomatic activity. People frankly expected India to retaliate. It didn't happen, but the counsel that India got was, please don't start hostilities. At that time, perhaps the judgment was that if India were to act, Pakistan would redeploy its troops from the Afghan border towards India and so on. And for whatever reason, I'm not trying to second guess the basis for not acting, it did not happen. But India is alone in this battle. Even in the battle against terrorism for 20 odd years, we spoke about it and the world did not take note until 9/11 happened in New York. And then suddenly they realized that everybody was vulnerable. Likewise, after 26/11, the tactics that were used caused great concern in many countries near and far. And some of them, in fact, went through drills to try to see how they would deal with this kind of a situation. So it's been a long road, it's been a lonely road. It's a good thing that other countries are speaking out in support of India, but I think in terms of action we have to recognize that we have to take and decide on our steps ourselves.
Absolutely, and that has been the prime focus of those statements, of the messaging that has been sent out by the Indian side. Of course, more strongly ever since the Pulwama terror attack as well, in which 40 of India's Central Reserve Police Force personnel were killed. That attack was claimed by the Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed.